The massive crystal dome of the Galactic Council building stretched high into the purple sky of Nexus Prime. Inside, hundreds of beings from across the galaxy filled the Great Hall. Some walked on two legs like humans, others floated in the air, and a few rolled along the polished floor on dozens of tiny legs. The air buzzed with the sound of universal translators, working hard to change alien words into something everyone could understand. Ambassador. Helen Carter sat in the human section, her hands folded calmly on the smooth table in front of her. She had short brown hair and wore the dark blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic service. At 45, she had seen many strange things in her years as a soldier and then as a diplomat, but today felt different. Today, she knew, would change everything. For humanity. Behind her sat Captain Ben Murphy, the military advisor assigned to the human delegation. His green eyes scanned the room, taking note of which alien species seemed nervous and which ones looked confident. Next to him, Dr. Lisa Park, Earth's chief science officer, quietly reviewed data on her tablet. The three humans looked small and ordinary compared to the massive, colorful aliens around them. At the center of the hall, on a raised platform that glowed with soft light, stood Ambassador Zeth Ka of the Vorthan Empire. He was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to shine under the lights. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he spoke, and his large black eyes looked out at the gathered representatives. Fellow members of the Galactic Council, Zeth Ka began, his voice carrying easily through the hall, thanks to the advanced sound systems. We meet today to discuss a matter of great importance. For 3 of our standard years, the species known as humans have been part of our great alliance. They have shared their knowledge with us. They have helped solve disputes between our worlds. They have proven themselves to be intelligent and peaceful beings. Helen noticed how the alien's tone changed slightly, becoming more serious. However, Zeth Ka continued, there is one area where we know very little about our human friends. In all their time with us, they have never shown us their military strength. They have never demonstrated how they would defend themselves or their allies if attacked. This troubles many of us. A low murmur ran through the hall. Helen could hear different languages being translated, creating a strange mix of sounds. She kept her face calm, but inside she smiled. She had been waiting for this moment for months. From across the hall, a creature that looked like living crystal stood up. This was Speaker Velnor of the Crystalline Collective, a race of beings made of pure energy housed in crystal shells. When Velnor spoke, the sound was like wind chimes mixed with a computer's voice. The human delegate speaks truly, Velnor said. We have seen human art, human science, human diplomacy. All are impressive. But we have never seen human warriors. In these dangerous times, with pirates attacking trade routes and unknown threats, in the outer systems, we must know that all council members can defend our alliance. More voices joined in. A massive creature with tentacles instead of arms spoke about the need for military strength. A small, furry being with 6 legs talked about recent attacks on mining stations. Even the usually quiet water dwellers from the deep ocean worlds expressed concern. Helen stood up slowly. The hall gradually became quiet as all eyes turned toward the human section. She had prepared for this speech many times, knowing that the right words could mean the difference between humanity being accepted as a full member of the galactic community or being seen as weak and unworthy. Honored representatives, Helen began, her voice clear and steady. We humans understand your concerns completely. You have welcomed us into your great alliance with open arms. You have shared your knowledge and your friendship with us. It is only natural that you would want to know if we can stand beside you when danger comes. She paused, looking around the hall at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. I want to. assure you that humanity has always been ready to defend our friends and our beliefs. We have faced many challenges on our own world, and we have learned how to protect what matters to us. But we also understand that words are not enough. You need to see for yourselves what humans can do when we must fight. Zethka leaned forward with interest. Are you saying that humanity is willing to demonstrate your military capabilities for the Council? That is exactly what I am saying, Helen replied. If the Council wishes, we can arrange a demonstration that will show you how humans approach warfare and defense. We ask only that you provide a suitable location and give us time to bring our forces to that location. The hall erupted in excited chatter. Some aliens seemed pleased, others worried, and a few looked skeptical. Helen noticed Commander Thrax of the Corvin species shaking his large armored head. The Corvins were known throughout the galaxy as fierce warriors, and Thrax clearly doubted that humans could impress him. Speaker. Velnor's crystal body flashed with different colors as the being considered Helen's offer. What kind of demonstration are you proposing, human ambassador? Helen had practiced this answer many times. We propose a full military exercise, using real equipment and real tactics, but with safety measures in place to protect observers. We would show you how human forces work together, how we solve tactical problems, and how we adapt to changing situations. You would see everything from our smallest unit tactics to our largest strategic operations. The tentacled creature from the Aquatic Federation raised one of its many arms. How large a force would you bring for this demonstration? That would depend on what the Council wishes to see, Helen answered carefully. We could demonstrate with a small strike team, or we could bring a full battle group. We want to show you whatever you need to see to feel confident in humanity's commitment to the Alliance. Zethka looked around the hall, reading the mood of the other representatives. I believe this proposal has merit. What do other Council members think? For the next hour, aliens debated the idea. Some wanted to see only defensive capabilities. Others insisted on seeing offensive operations. A few suggested that the demonstration should include combat against simulated enemies. Through it all, Helen sat quietly, answering questions when asked, but mostly just listening. Finally, Zethka called for order. It appears that the Council is interested in your proposal, Ambassador Carter. We will need to discuss the details, including where this demonstration should take place and what exactly we wish to observe. Of course, Helen replied. We will work with whatever requirements the Council sets. As the formal session ended and aliens began to leave the hall in small groups, Helen activated the small communication device hidden in her jacket. The signal would travel faster than light, reaching Earth's military command in just a few minutes. Control, this is Ambassador Carter, she said quietly. Authorization code 77 Alpha Blue. Please connect me to Admiral Morrison. There was a brief pause, then a familiar voice came through the tiny speaker. Admiral Morrison here, Helen. How did it go? They want a demonstration, Jake, Helen said, using the Admiral's first name as she had when they were both young officers. Serving together years ago. Full military exercise with Council observers. They want to see what we can really do. Understood, Admiral Morrison replied. How much can we show them? Helen looked around the nearly empty hall, then walked toward the exit where Captain Murphy and Dr. Park were waiting for her. Everything, Jake. They need to see everything. Our membership in the Council depends on it. Copy that. I'll begin. Preparations immediately. Morrison out. Helen put away the communication device and joined her colleagues. As they walked through the corridors of the Council building, past walls decorated with art from dozens of different worlds, she thought about what was coming. Soon, the galaxy would see what humans were truly capable of when they needed to fight. She hoped they would be impressed rather than frightened. The demonstration would either secure humanity's place among the stars or reveal them as a threat that needed to be contained. Helen was confident it would be the former, but she also knew that the stakes could not be higher. The Kepler 442 system floated in the darkness of space, 3 rocky planets orbiting a yellow star, much like Earth's sun. No life had ever grown on these worlds, making them perfect for military exercises. The Galactic Council had chosen this system for humanity's demonstration because it was far from any inhabited worlds and had plenty of space for ships to move around safely. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the HFY Frontier, looking out at the stars through the large viewing window. He was a tall man with gray hair and steady blue eyes that had seen many battles. At 52, he had commanded ships for over 20 years, but this mission was different from any he had ever faced. Today, he would show the galaxy what human soldiers could do. "Status report," Admiral Morrison said to his bridge crew. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Davis looked up from her station. "All ships have arrived and are in position, Admiral." The Council. "Observation platforms are maintaining safe distance as requested." Morrison nodded. Around him, 12 of Earth's finest warships waited in formation. The HFY Frontier served as the flagship, a massive vessel equipped with the most advanced weapons and shields humanity had ever built. Nearby, the destroyers. HFY's Lightning and HFY's Thunder held their positions, ready to demonstrate the speed and firepower of human naval engineering. Captain Tony Shaw commanded the Lightning, a ship designed for quick strikes and fast escapes. Captain Rita Stone led the Thunder, known for its powerful weapons and strong armor. Both officers had fought in the Mars colonial wars and understood how much this demonstration meant for Earth's future. Behind the main battleships, 9 support vessels carried Marines, fighters, and special equipment. The largest of these was the HFY Valor, commanded by Captain Lisa Hayes. Inside the Valor, 800 Marines prepared for combat exercises. That would show the aliens how humans fought on the ground. Colonel Ryan Burke walked through the Valor's main hangar, checking on his troops. The 1st Orbital Assault Battalion was humanity's best unit for fighting in space and on alien worlds. These soldiers had trained for years to drop from ships in orbit and capture enemy positions on planets below. "Listen up, Marines," Colonel Burke called out to the assembled troops. "Today, we show the galaxy what human soldiers can do. Remember your training, follow your orders, and make Earth proud." Sergeant Amy Collins stood with her squad near their drop pods. These were special vehicles designed to carry soldiers from ships in space down to planet surfaces, even under enemy fire. Collins had made over 30 combat drops in her career, but none as important as this one. "You heard the Colonel," she told her squad. "This is not just about us. Every human in the galaxy is counting on us to get this right." Private Danny Wright, barely 20 years old and new to the unit, raised his hand. "Sergeant, do you think the aliens will be impressed?" Collins smiled. "Son, they're about to see things they never imagined. Human tactics are different from anything they know. We don't just fight harder or use bigger weapons. We fight smarter." Meanwhile, on the observation platforms, alien representatives from across the galaxy gathered to watch the demonstration. The platforms were large, comfortable stations with powerful sensors and viewing screens that would let the observers see everything that happened during the exercise. Commander Thrax of the Corvan Empire stood at the main viewing window of Platform 1. His massive frame was covered in natural armor, and his 6 arms could wield weapons with deadly skill. The Corvans had been warriors for thousands of years, and Thrax had personally led attacks on dozens of enemy worlds. "I still do not understand why we waste time with this," Thrax said to the other observers. "Humans are weak. They have no natural weapons, no armor, no special abilities. How can such soft creatures be effective warriors?" Ambassador Kesna of the Elysian Federation floated nearby, her body glowing with soft blue light. The Elysians were masters of defensive technology, with shields that could stop almost any weapon. Perhaps their weakness forces them to be creative, she suggested. We should watch with open minds. The Crystalline Collective's representative, Speaker Vel Nor, flickered with curious colors. The humans claim to use something they call tactics. This is different from our direct approach to warfare. It will be interesting to observe. On Platform 2, other alien species expressed their own doubts. The Aquatic Federation's delegate wondered if humans could fight in different environments. The mountain-dwelling stone walkers questioned whether human technology was strong enough for real combat. Even the peaceful Zephyrian scholars, who rarely thought about military matters, seemed skeptical that humans could contribute meaningfully to galactic defense. Back on the U's frontier, Admiral Morrison received reports from all his ships. Every system was working perfectly. Every crew member was ready for action. He had spent months planning this demonstration, knowing that humanity's future in the Galactic Council depended on making a good impression. Admiral, called Captain Mike Rodriguez, the ship's tactical officer. The Council observers are requesting that we begin the demonstration. Morrison walked to his command chair and sat down. Very well. Signal all ships. Begin Operation Showcase. The first part of the demonstration involved showing how human ships moved and worked together. Unlike alien fleets that typically flew in large, obvious formations, the human ships immediately spread out across the system. To the alien observers, it looked like the human fleet was breaking apart and becoming disorganized. What are they doing? Commander Thrax asked, watching the human ships scatter in different directions. This is not how a proper fleet operates. On Platform 3, Professor X9 of the Academic Coalition studied the human movements with scientific interest. They appear to be using a dispersed formation. This is highly unusual for space combat. Admiral Morrison's strategy was based on something humans called asymmetric warfare. Instead of meeting an enemy with equal force, human doctrine emphasized using unexpected tactics, superior mobility, and careful timing to win battles with fewer casualties and less resources. The U.E.'s Lightning, under Captain Shaw's command, demonstrated this by using the system's asteroid field to hide its approach to the first target planet. The ship would disappear behind large rocks, then suddenly appear in a new location to attack. Simulated enemy positions with precise weapon strikes. Impossible, muttered Commander Thrax. How can they hide a ship that large? The Thunder, commanded by Captain Stone, showed a different approach. Instead of hiding, it used electronic warfare to confuse enemy sensors, making multiple false images of itself appear on detection systems. To the alien observers, it looked like one human ship had suddenly become 5 ships. While the spaceships demonstrated their capabilities, Colonel Burke's Marines prepared for their part of the exercise. The drop pods were loaded and ready, each one carrying a full squad of soldiers equipped for combat on the planet's surface. Remember, Colonel Burke told his officers over the communication system, we're not just showing them how we fight. We're showing them how we think. Human warfare is about adaptation, coordination, and using our brains instead of just our weapons. Captain Hayes, commanding the Valor, coordinated with ground forces as her ship moved into position above the target planet. Marines, this is your captain speaking. You are about to demonstrate something no alien species has ever seen. Show them what human soldiers can accomplish when we work together. The alien observers watched with growing confusion as human forces continued to operate in ways that made no sense according to traditional galactic military doctrine. Ships appeared and disappeared. False signals filled the communication channels. And the entire human fleet seemed to be doing something completely different from what any alien military would do. I do not understand their strategy, admitted Ambassador Kesna. They seem to be avoiding direct confrontation entirely. Speaker Velnor's crystal form pulsed with uncertain colors. Perhaps this is their strategy, to confuse the enemy so thoroughly that victory becomes impossible to prevent. Admiral Morrison smiled as he watched the confusion on the alien observation platforms. The real demonstration was just beginning, and soon the galaxy would understand what made human warfare so effective. They were about to learn that sometimes the best way to win a fight was to make sure the enemy never knew where the fight was really happening. The demonstration entered its second hour, and the alien observers were beginning to understand that human warfare was unlike anything they had ever seen. On Platform 1, Commander Thrax gripped the viewing rail with all 6 of his armored hands, his warrior instincts telling him that something important was happening, even if he could not understand what. "They are not fighting like soldiers," Thrax said, his voice filled with confusion. "Where are the battle lines? Where are the massive weapon strikes? This looks more like a hunting party than an army." Ambassador Kesna of the Elysian Federation studied her readings with growing interest. "Commander, I believe that is exactly the point. They are hunting their enemies instead of simply attacking them." On the UE's Lightning, Captain Tony Shaw watched his tactical display as his ship moved through the asteroid field like a predator stalking prey. His crew of 35 had trained for years in hit-and-run tactics, using speed and surprise instead of heavy armor and big guns. "Target acquired," called Lieutenant Kelly Adams from the weapons station. "Simulated enemy bunker on the planet's surface. Grid reference 74 Alpha. Fire when ready," Shaw ordered. 2 precision strikes, and we moved to the next position. The Lightning's weapons fired 2 quick bursts of energy, destroying the target completely. Before any enemy could respond, the ship was already moving to a new hiding place behind a different asteroid. The whole attack took less than 30 seconds. Speaker Villeneuve watched this display with amazement. How do they coordinate these attacks? Each ship seems to know exactly where the others are, without constant communication. The answer lay in human military doctrine that emphasized individual initiative within overall strategy. Each ship captain knew the general plan and was trained to make quick decisions without waiting for orders from higher command. This allowed human forces to adapt much faster than alien armies that relied on centralized control. Colonel Ryan Burke's voice came over the communication system to all Marine units aboard the U's Valor. "First wave, prepare for drop. Remember, we are showing them combined operations. Space and ground forces working together as one unit." The drop pods launched from the Valor like bullets fired from a gun. Each pod contained 8 Marines equipped with advanced weapons and communication gear. As they fell toward the planet's surface, the pods used small rockets to change direction, making them almost impossible for enemy weapons to target. "Sergeant." Amy Collins felt her stomach lurch as her pod twisted through the atmosphere toward the landing zone. Around her, 7 other Marines sat strapped into their seats, checking their weapons and equipment one final time. 30 seconds to touchdown," announced Corporal Danny Wright, the squad's communications specialist. "Landing zone looks clear." The pods hit the ground hard, and the Marines quickly burst out to establish a defensive perimeter. Collins immediately activated her communication gear and contacted the ships in orbit above. "Lightning Actual, this is Ground Team Alpha. We have secured the primary landing zone. Request immediate fire support on grid reference 88 Charlie." Captain Shaw's voice came back instantly. "Ground Team Alpha, fire support confirmed. Danger close mission acknowledged." Within seconds, precise energy blasts from the Lightning struck enemy positions just 500 meters from where the Marines had landed. The coordination between space and ground forces was so perfect that it looked like one organism with many parts. Instead of separate military units, on the observation, Platforms. The alien representatives watched in stunned silence as human forces demonstrated what they called combined arms warfare. Every part of the human military worked together seamlessly, from the largest ships down to individual soldiers. "This is remarkable," said Professor X9 of the Academic Coalition. "They have achieved perfect coordination between different types of forces. How is this possible?" The answer lay in human military training that emphasized cross-training and joint operations. Marine officers had served on ships, ship captains had trained with ground forces, and everyone understood how all the pieces fit together. This was very different from alien military systems, where space forces and ground forces were completely separate organizations. Captain Lisa Hayes watched the Marine deployment from the bridge of the UES Valor. As an experienced officer who had served in both naval and marine roles, she understood better than anyone how important this coordination was to human military success. "Colonel Burke," she called over the communication system, "your Marines are performing beautifully. The aliens look like they have never seen anything like this before." Burke's voice came back with obvious pride. "Captain, these are the finest soldiers in the galaxy. Today, they get to prove it." Meanwhile, the U's Thunder, commanded by Captain Rita Stone, demonstrated another aspect of human warfare that baffled the alien observers. Instead of using brute force to destroy targets, the Thunder used electronic warfare to turn the enemy's own systems against them. Lieutenant Commander Mark Davis, the Thunder's electronic warfare officer, worked at his station with intense concentration. "Captain, I have successfully penetrated the simulated enemy communication network. I can now feed them false information or shut down their systems entirely." "Excellent work, Davis. Show our observers what human cyber warfare can accomplish." Within minutes, the simulated enemy forces on the planet began receiving false orders that sent them marching in the wrong directions. Their communication systems started broadcasting human messages instead of their own. Even their weapon systems began targeting their own positions instead of the human Marines. Commander Thrax watched this display with growing amazement and concern. They are not just defeating the enemy. They are making the enemy defeat itself. This is beyond anything in our military doctrine. The most impressive demonstration came when the human forces showed their ability to adapt in real time to changing situations. Admiral Morrison had programmed the exercise computers to simulate an enemy that learned from human tactics and began to counter them. When the simulated enemy started using jammers to block human communications, the human forces immediately switched to backup systems and alternative tactics. When the enemy began using the asteroid field to hide just as the humans had done, the human ships changed their approach entirely. Captain Shaw received new orders from Admiral Morrison and immediately understood what was needed. "All hands, prepare for Formation Zulu. We are switching to direct assault tactics." The transformation was startling to watch. The human ships that had been moving like ghosts through the asteroid field suddenly formed into a tight battle formation and began a coordinated attack on the main enemy position. The same forces that had been using stealth and deception now displayed overwhelming firepower and perfect coordination. "Impossible," whispered Ambassador Kesnow. "They have completely changed their entire approach in less than 10 minutes. How can the same military force use such different tactics?" The answer was something humans called adaptive warfare. Instead of having one way to fight, human forces trained in multiple different combat styles and could switch between them as needed. This flexibility was possible because human commanders were taught to think creatively and solve problems instead of just following pre-written battle plans. On the planet's surface, Colonel Burke's Marines demonstrated the same adaptability. When the simulated enemy began using heavy weapons against their positions, the Marines immediately called for orbital support. When the enemy tried to surround them, The Marines split into smaller groups and began using guerrilla tactics. Sergeant Collins led her squad in a fighting retreat that drew enemy forces into a trap. All units, this is Alpha Squad. We are leading the enemy toward grid reference 91 Bravo. Request you spring the ambush on my signal. 3 other Marine squads had positioned themselves around the target area. When Collins gave the signal, they attacked the enemy from 3 directions at once, while orbital strikes hit them from above. The coordinated attack destroyed the entire enemy force in less than 5 minutes. The alien observers had never seen ground forces coordinate so effectively with air and space support. In their military systems, different branches of the armed forces rarely work together so closely. They fight like a single organism, observed Speaker Velnor. Each part knows what every other part is doing. As the 3rd hour of the demonstration began, the alien representatives were starting to understand that they were witnessing something completely new in galactic military history. Human warfare was not about having the biggest weapons or the strongest shields. It was about thinking faster, adapting quicker, and working together better than any enemy could match. Admiral Morrison looked at the tactical display on the bridge of the UES frontier and nodded with satisfaction. The first 3 hours of the demonstration had gone perfectly, showing the alien observers basic human military tactics. But now it was time to reveal what human forces could really do when they stopped holding back. All ships, this is Admiral Morrison, he announced over the fleet communication system. We are now moving to Phase 4 of the demonstration. Switch to full spectrum warfare protocols. Show our guests what human military science has actually achieved. The change was immediate and dramatic. Across the human fleet, systems that had been hidden or turned off suddenly came online. The UE's frontier, which had seemed like an impressive but conventional warship, began to reveal its true capabilities. On the observation platforms, the alien representatives noticed the change immediately. Energy readings from the human ships suddenly increased by massive amounts. New types of sensors began scanning the area. Most startling of all, clouds of small objects began launching from every human vessel. What are those things? Asked Commander Thrax, pointing at his display screen, where hundreds of tiny dots were moving away from the human ship's dot professor. X9 adjusted his sensors to get a better look. They appear to be autonomous drones. Each one seems to be operating independently, but they are coordinating their movements perfectly. Captain Mike Rodriguez stood at his tactical station aboard the Frontier, watching as the drone swarms deployed. According to his programming, each drone was no bigger than a small fighter, but they carried advanced artificial intelligence that let them make tactical decisions without human control. Drone deployment complete, Admiral, Rodriguez reported. We now have complete sensor coverage of the entire system, and each drone is capable of independent combat operations. What the aliens were seeing was something that no galactic military had achieved before. Human drones did not just follow pre-programmed instructions like alien automated systems. They could think, learn, and adapt just like human soldiers, but they could do it faster and coordinate with hundreds of other drones at the same time. The demonstration became even more impressive when the drones began working together in ways that seemed impossible. Some drones combined their sensors to create a detection network that could find hidden enemies anywhere in the system. Others linked their weapons together to create devastating coordinated attacks. Still others began building temporary structures in space, creating supply bases and communication relays in just minutes. Speaker Valnor's crystal form flickered with amazement. They have created artificial soldiers that can think and act independently. This changes everything about space warfare. Lieutenant Commander Sandra Bell sat at her station aboard the UES Thunder, preparing to demonstrate another aspect of human military capability that the aliens had never seen before. As the fleet's leading expert in cyber warfare, she had been waiting for this moment to show what human computer technology could really accomplish. "Captain Stone," Bell reported, "I am ready to begin the cyber warfare demonstration." "Proceed, Commander," Captain Stone replied. "Show them what human electronic warfare can do." Bell's fingers moved quickly across her control panel, and suddenly the entire communications network of the simulated enemy forces came under attack. But this was not the simple jamming or false messages that the aliens had seen earlier. This was something far more sophisticated. Human cyber warfare systems began to infiltrate every electronic device in the enemy network. Communication systems, weapon controls, life support systems, even simple calculators and light switches came under human control. Within minutes, the simulated enemy had lost control of their entire technological infrastructure. "Remarkable," said Ambassador Kessna, studying her readings. "They have not just disrupted enemy communications. They have taken complete control of every electronic system the enemy possesses." A cyber attack demonstration showed something that terrified many of the alien observers. Human technology was so advanced that it could turn an enemy's own equipment against them. Weapons would refuse to fire, shields would shut down at critical moments, and even basic life support systems could be controlled by human operators. But the most shocking part of the demonstration was yet to come. Colonel Burke had been preparing his Marines for something that no alien military had ever attempted. He called it environmental warfare, and it would show the aliens why human soldiers had never been successfully conquered by any enemy in their history. "All Marine units, prepare for Scorched Earth Protocol," Burke announced. "We are going to show our observers what happens when humans decide that territory must be denied to enemy forces." The Marines on the planet's surface began deploying specialized equipment that the aliens had not seen before. These devices could change the environment itself, making land unusable for enemy occupation, while keeping it safe for human forces. Sergeant Amy Collins led her squad in setting up atmospheric processors that could change the air composition in selected areas. Other squads deployed ground modification systems that could make the earth too soft for enemy vehicles or too hard for enemy soldiers to dig defensive positions. "Collins to all units," she called over the communication system. "Environmental modifications are complete. Any enemy force trying to occupy this area will find it impossible to survive here, but our forces can operate normally with proper equipment." The alien observers watched in stunned silence as the Marines demonstrated their ability to make entire regions of a planet uninhabitable for occupying forces. This was warfare on a scale that most galactic species had never imagined possible. "They can deny territory to an enemy permanently," whispered Professor X9. "Even if the enemy wins the battle, they cannot use the land they have captured." Commander Thrax felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. Fear. Not fear of death in battle, which every warrior understood, but fear of facing an enemy that could think in ways he had never considered. "This explains much about human history," Thrax said quietly. "No enemy has ever successfully occupied human territory for long, because humans make occupation impossible." The final part of the demonstration involved showing the aliens something that challenged their basic understanding of military force. Admiral Morrison ordered his fleet to demonstrate what humans called strategic deterrence. The U.S. Frontier began charging its main weapon systems, but instead of preparing to attack targets in the system, the ship aimed its weapons at empty space. Energy readings climbed to levels that made the alien sensors scream, warnings about dangerous radiation. "Admiral," called Captain Rodriguez, "all weapons are charged and ready." "Deterrence protocols are active," Morrison nodded. "Fire a demonstration. Shot into empty space. Show them what our main battle systems can actually do." the Frontier's main weapons discharged into the darkness between stars. The energy release was so massive that it created a brief artificial star, visible from the young observation platforms even though it was millions of kilometers away. For a few seconds, the weapon's discharge was brighter than the system's natural sun. The alien observers sat in shocked silence. The weapon they had just seen could destroy entire fleets, level continents, or crack the crust of planets. But the humans had not used it against any target. They had fired it into empty space just to show that it existed. Strategic deterrence, Admiral Morrison explained over the communication system to the observation platforms. The most effective weapon is one that never needs to be fired because potential enemies know it exists and choose not to fight. Velnor's crystal form had stopped flickering entirely. They possess weapons that could destroy entire worlds, but they choose not to use them. This level of restraint is unknown in galactic military doctrine. The demonstration continued for another hour, with human forces showing capability that the aliens had never imagined. Weapons that could strike targets in other solar systems. Defensive systems that could protect entire planets. Communication networks that worked faster than light and could not be jammed or intercepted. But perhaps the most impressive thing was not any single piece of technology. It was the way human forces used everything together as part of a single, coordinated system. Every weapon, every soldier, every piece of equipment worked together perfectly to achieve military objectives with minimal waste and maximum effectiveness. As the fourth phase of the demonstration concluded, the alien observers finally began to understand what they had been witnessing. This was not just a military exercise. This was a glimpse into a completely different way of thinking about warfare, strategy, and the use of force. Human military doctrine was not about destroying enemies. It was about making enemies choose not to fight in the first place. And when fighting became necessary, ending conflicts as quickly and decisively as possible while minimizing casualties on all sides. The demonstration had lasted 6 hours, and now silence filled the observation platforms as alien representatives struggled to process what they had witnessed. The human fleet hung motionless in space, their weapons powered down, their drones recalled, their marines returned to their ships. But the impact of what they had shown would change galactic military thinking forever. Commander Thrax of the Corvin Empire stood at the viewing window, his 6 arms hanging limp at his sides. In 40 years of military service, he had conquered 17 worlds and defeated enemies across a dozen star systems. He had thought he understood warfare completely. Now he realized he had been fighting like a child with toys compared to what humans could accomplish. "I was wrong," Thrax said quietly, his voice barely audible in the observation chamber. "Everything I thought I knew about military strength was wrong." Ambassador Kesna of the Elysian Federation floated nearby, her normally bright blue glow dimmed to almost nothing. The Elysians had always been proud of their defensive technology, believing their shields could protect them from any threat. But they had just watched human forces demonstrate weapons that could bypass shields entirely, and cyber attacks that could turn those same shields against their users. "Our defensive systems would be useless against such tactics," Kesna admitted. "They would not destroy our shields. They would simply make our shields work for them instead of for us." Speaker Velnor of the Crystalline Collective had been flickering through different colors rapidly for the past hour, a sign of extreme confusion in their species. "I must revise all of our strategic assessments," Velnor announced. "Human warfare operates on principles we had not considered possible." On Platform 3, Professor X9 of the Academic Coalition was frantically taking notes on his datapad. As a military scientist, he understood better than most what the implications of human tactics would be for galactic defense planning. "Remarkable," he muttered to himself. "They have achieved perfect integration between biological intelligence, artificial intelligence, and technological systems. No wonder they have never been successfully invaded. The communication system activated, and Admiral Morrison's voice reached all the observation platforms. Distinguished representatives of the Galactic Council, this concludes our military demonstration. We hope this has answered your questions about human defensive capabilities. There was a long pause before anyone responded. Finally, Ambassador Zethka of the Vorthan Empire, who had originally requested the demonstration, found his voice. Admiral Morrison, Zethka began slowly. We asked to see your military capabilities because we wanted to know if humans could contribute to galactic defense. What we have seen today goes far beyond what we expected. Morrison's image appeared on the communication screens and all the observation platforms. He looked calm and professional, but there was a slight smile on his face. We appreciate your interest in our methods, Ambassador. We hope this demonstration has been educational. Commander Thrax stepped forward to address the human admiral directly. Admiral Morrison, I have one question that I must ask. The forces we observed today, how much of your total military strength do they represent? Morrison's smile became more visible. Commander Thrax, the 12 ships you observed today represent approximately one battle group. Earth maintains 47 such battle groups, plus additional specialized units for specific mission types. The silence that followed this statement was complete. The alien representatives had been amazed by what they thought was a significant portion of human military power. Learning that it was less than 1% of Earth's total forces left them, speechless speaker Velnor was the first to recover. Admiral, are you saying that what we witnessed today was a small sample of human military capability? That is correct, Morrison replied. Today we showed you standard tactics and equipment used by a single battle group. We did not demonstrate our strategic weapons, our defensive installations, or our specialized forces for different types of combat environments. Ambassador Kesna's glow flickered weakly. What would a full demonstration of human military power look like? Morrison considered the question carefully. Ambassador, a full demonstration would require evacuating several star systems and would likely be visible from dozens of light years away. We prefer not to conduct such exercises unless absolutely necessary. Back on the U's frontier, Captain Rodriguez was securing the ship systems after the demonstration. Admiral, all weapons are powered down and all drones have been recovered. The demonstration equipment is being stored. Excellent work, Captain, Morrison replied. Send my compliments to all ships. They performed flawlessly today. On the U's Valor, Colonel Burke addressed his Marines over the ship's communication system. Outstanding job today, Marines. You have shown the galaxy what human soldiers can accomplish. Be proud of what you have achieved. Sergeant Amy Collins and her squad were cleaning their equipment after returning from the planet's surface. Sergeant, asked Private Danny Wright, do you think we impressed them? Collins looked at the young Marine with amusement. Son, I think we scared them more and impressed them. But sometimes that is exactly what you need to do to keep the peace. The communication channels between the observation platforms buzzed with activity as alien representatives discussed what they had witnessed. The conversations were in dozens of different languages, but universal translators carried the same sense of amazement and concern across all species. We must reconsider all of our military planning, said the representative from the Stone Walker Republic. Human tactics make our traditional fortifications obsolete. The delegate from the Aquatic Federation agreed. Their ability to fight in any environment means that no world is truly safe from human forces if they choose to attack. Even the peaceful Zephyrian scholars, who rarely thought about military matters, understood the implications. If humans can think so creatively about warfare, one scholar observed, imagine what they might accomplish when they apply that same creativity to peaceful endeavors. Ambassador Helen Carter, had been watching the alien reactions from her position. On Platform 1, as Earth's diplomatic representative, she understood that the demonstration had been about more than just showing military strength. It had been about establishing humanity's place in the galactic community as equals, not as junior members who needed protection. Distinguished representatives, Carter said, addressing the assembled aliens, I hope today's demonstration has answered your questions about human military capabilities. More importantly, I hope it has shown you that humans prefer to use our abilities to protect our friends rather than to threaten our enemies. Zethka nodded slowly. Ambassador Carter, your demonstration has indeed answered our questions. But it has also raised new ones. How does humanity maintain such advanced military capability while remaining committed to peaceful cooperation? Carter smiled. Ambassador Zethka, humans learned long ago that the best way to preserve peace is to be prepared for war. We maintain strong defenses not because we want to fight, but because we want to make sure that fighting is never necessary. The formal session continued for another hour as alien representatives asked detailed questions about human military doctrine, training methods, and strategic philosophy. What impressed them most was not any single weapon or tactic, but the human approach to warfare as a problem to be solved rather than just a contest of strength. Commander, Thrax made a formal statement that surprised everyone in the chamber. As a representative of the Corvan Empire, I propose that the Galactic Council formally invite humanity to join the Military Advisory Committee with full voting privileges. The proposal was seconded immediately by Ambassador Kesno, then by Speaker Velnor, and within minutes by every other major species represented at the demonstration. When the vote was taken, it was unanimous. Not only would humanity remain member of the Galactic Council, but Earth was formally invited to help plan galactic defense strategy. Admiral Morrison was appointed as the first human strategic coordinator, with authority to advise all Council military operations. As the alien representatives prepared to return to their home worlds, many carried with them a new understanding of what made humans unique in the galaxy. They had witnessed a species that could fight with devastating effectiveness when necessary, but chose to use that strength to protect rather than to conquer. The phrase, "So this is a human army," became common throughout galactic military academies, used to describe any force that achieved victory through superior thinking rather than superior firepower. Human military advisors were soon stationed on dozens of worlds, teaching alien forces new ways to approach tactical problems. Ambassador Carter's final message to Earth was simple but profound. Mission accomplished. The galaxy now understands what we are capable of, and more importantly, they understand that we prefer peace but are prepared for anything that threatens it.